dears, and welcome back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today we have another book talk video to share with you guys. And today we're talking about We'll All Be Burnt in Our Bed Some Night by Joel Thomas Hynes. Now, I've had this book for a while. It was published in 2017, and then in January 2018, my Aunt Carolyn came to visit from Newfoundland when my nephew was born, and while she was here, she recommended this book to me. Now, I take Carolyn's book recommendations very seriously because she's got great taste in books and I've never been led astray. And so the day she recommended it, I ordered it on Amazon that very night and I started reading it. And I got about halfway through and then I put it down for a little while. She had warned me that it was a bit of a heavy read, I guess you'd say. You know, it's good, but it's heavy, is kind of, I think, how she described it. And that's true. So first of all, let me tell you about Joel Thomas Hynes. He's a Newfoundland artist, he's a writer, he's an actor, he's many other things. This is not his first book. If you're a Canadian, you might be familiar with him because he was in a few fairly popular TV shows, Republic of Doyle being one, Orphan Black being another one that was, I know, a really popular sci-fi show, Rookie Blue as well. And so I had heard of him, but I hadn't read any of his books before I picked this one up. And this one was longlisted for the Scotiabank Giller Prize, which you get if you're Canadian. You might know that that is a fairly coveted literary award. Now, I'm not going to get too much into spoilers for this book because it's a really interesting sort of book, and to get into the spoilers, we would be here for a very long time because it's not so much things that happen that we would have to go through, but rather things that are said. I saw someone describe this as like a very long monologue, and accurate. So I'll give you the basic synopsis of this and then my review. So this book is about a man named Johnny. He's a young man. I think he's in his early 20s at the time when this book takes place, and though he's very young, he's already really had a rough go of it. He's one of those guys that's always in trouble, and not just in a mild sense of the word, like in and out of jail, and just constantly, if there's trouble around, he's there, he's in it, he's a part of it. And when we first meet him in this book, he's facing something a little more serious. He's facing 3 to 5 years in a maximum security prison. Now, this book takes place in Newfoundland, and which is where I'm from. It's an island on the east coast of Canada, if you're not familiar. And I love reading books that are written by Newfoundland authors. It's just really fun to get to support Newfoundland authors, and there's always something a little special about the books that they write, especially when the books are filled with characters who are Newfoundlanders, or the book takes place in Newfoundland at all. There's just that something special. And I'm sure everyone thinks that about where they're from, but there just is. If you've ever been to Newfoundland, you felt it with the people and the land. It's different than anywhere else you've ever been. Not only is Johnny a Newfoundlander, the book itself is written almost with a Newfoundland accent. As you're reading it, you can hear it in the way that a Newfoundlander would say it. I'm not a good example of that. I don't have a very thick accent, although when I do go home, I tend to pick it up a bit more. But some Newfoundlanders have really, really thick accents, and the book is written kind of with that accent in mind. The way it's literally written, the way the words are spelled. And I love that. Like, one thing that we tend to do is when we say at all, we'll put it together as one word and we'll say at all. And that's how it's spelled in this book, like A-T-A-L-L, all one word. And I really loved that, but I will say, for someone who's not familiar, it will make it a bit of a difficult read. So anyway, we meet Johnny, and like I said, he's looking down the barrel of 3 to 5 years in a pretty serious prison, and we find out that the reason why is that one night he was having a sort of domestic dispute with his girlfriend Madonna, and he's holding a teapot, which is like, of course he was. He was holding a teapot and he's being charged with hitting her with it, but from his account, what happened was he was holding it all right, but she kind of stumbled and fell into it. So we really only have his word to go by for this, but he's pretty adamant about it. So anyway, at the court date, he's waiting for her to come to testify, but she never shows up. And he soon finds out that that's because she was killed in an accident. And so because she's not there to testify against him, he's let go. And he takes that kind of as a sign from above that now is his chance to start over, to start a new life, just to live it all differently, you know? So he collects her ashes in an urn, and he decides that he's going to travel from St. John's, Newfoundland, across the country to British Columbia, which is like all the way across the country on the other coast. And he's going to go to a beach that she always talked about and she always loved, and he's going to spread her ashes there. Now, the thing about Johnny is he doesn't have a car. He doesn't have anything like that. So he decides that he is going to hitchhike across the country with, right from the get-go, that's difficult because he's on an island, and to get off this island, it's like a good many-hour ferry ride. So just, you know, right off the bat, it's a lot. And then once he gets over to Nova Scotia, he starts hitchhiking, and he meets a lot of really interesting characters. And that's one of the things I really love about this book, is how it is populated so thickly with so many interesting characters. He has a lot of different run-ins. He has one sort of ill-fated night with a woman in a motel that involves a hot tub that ends very badly, but also darkly funny. He gets into a car accident in one of the cars that picks him up. They run into a moose. He's nearly killed by a hoof that comes in. And we learn as well that he's wanting to make a stop in, I believe it's Ontario, to speak with a prisoner in a prison there. And for a while we don't know who that is, but eventually we do learn that that is his father. And then from there he wants to make the final leg of the trip to get to British Columbia. And while this is all happening, while he's traveling and meeting all these different people, we're also getting insight into the kind of person that Johnny is. We're getting insight into the things he's done, the things that have been done to him. It takes a look at childhood and the ways that trauma in childhood can affect us later on in life. And it's just, it starts off and you're like, okay, you know, and like, this is it's a bit much, it's a bit strangely written, it's a bit difficult to get through, but if you stick with it, for me at least, I found the payoff at the end to be very rich. It's a great story. Joel Thomas Hynes is a great storyteller, you know. It's such a simple story, not even that original of one, you know. It's a man kind of on a redemption tour, taking his girlfriend's ashes to a place where she would want to be scattered. There's a lot of familiar villains along the way, you know, evil stepdads and things like that, but the way Joel writes this story makes it completely different from anything. I can promise you, while some elements might be familiar, this story is unlike anything you've ever read before. That's for sure, because I can say that, and I've read a lot. And I think you'd probably agree. It's very interesting. It'll tug on your heart. It'll make you mad. It'll possibly make you cry. You'll have a few laughs. Johnny's a character that you won't soon forget, no matter how hard you try. No matter how hard you try, you won't forget it. And I read the first half of the book and then I put it down for almost 2 years because I was like, I don't know if I'm ready to keep reading this. If I had my time back, I wish I had picked it up sooner, because like I said, the payoff was fantastic. But yeah, it's great. Johnny will stick with you. You'll hear him, the way he speaks, for days after you're done the book. And yeah, so I would definitely recommend. It's not going to be for everyone. There's a chance you'll pick it up and you'll hate it. I know that. But I hope that if you do, you stick with it till the end. And if you do read it, I would love to know what you think of it. If you've already read it, I'd love to know what you thought of it. And yeah, thanks so much for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this book talk video, and I hope you guys have a fantastic weekend. I've got some really good book talks coming up in the next few weeks. I'm excited to get into it. I've got about the next 5 or 6 book talks planned, and they're gonna be real good. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe. And if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys on Monday with another vlog. Bye, guys.